are, bottom of the Smash Mountain. I would like to thank all my patron supporters over at patreon.com/bsmpod for continuing to support me when I'm doing. It's been a while because this is been, let's see, in my time starting out the full-time dad life and my lovely wife Jen working, she is settling into her role. I'm settling into mine. So it's been a long time since we've had a guest on. However, I'm very pleased to have Kite with us today. But let me make sure I don't forget the special patrons who pledge even more, the senior producers. I'm talking about my mom and dad. Love y'all. Thanks for the support, as well as Ventus Official. So thank you all for continuing to tune in. We are keeping up with Melee news, me and Hada, but now Kite joins us, who I don't know a ton about, and this is a topic of conversation. When you listen to certain podcasts, it's very apparent that it's scripted, and then you listen to others and it's very not scripted. I've decided, going back and forth between the two, I just prefer to get to know you here. I am allowed to read tweets on your Twitter profile while we're talking, but that's kind of what I do now, Kite. Thank you so much for joining me. How do you feel about researching guests before you have them onto your podcast, if you have one?
Oh, man, I wish I had one. Well, first off, thank you for having me on. I mean, you have had some top players on. You've had some great content creators on, and I'm just some smasher from, Northeast PA. But for me personally, with the researching, I mean, it helps, right? I mean, kind of what to ask, what direction to go in, so I think it helps.
So here's something that I like to tell people, is that almost everybody is interesting to me. If you like Melee, you just become a much more interesting person to me, and I love having on big guests because it gives me the street cred. But I do dearly love having people on who are either far away from the scene because they were involved a long time ago, and I was able to somehow get a hold of them and say, do you want to talk about that good old Melee one more time? The general showing up to the soldier who's done it all but then tries to retire, kind of a thing. And then talk to the very current content creators. It's fun to have people on like Walt, who I will go out of my way to shout out and say congratulations for becoming the head of media for all of North American Beast Coast operations. So it's BC turned down for Walt, no more chair. Congratulations to Walt. When I get to have people like that on, it's cool, but I equally enjoy, if not more so, having people on like you, because first of all, here's something that catches my eye, is the legends of Smash. I remember one of the cool things that happened in 2020. There was some not cool things, but one of the cool things to come out of that was Germa, it was just Germ.
Yeah, the Link player from California.
Yes, who did all the artwork with all these cool. Look at this cool arting. And when I interviewed Jay Bobison, who's in my region, that was the first thing that caught my eye when I found his Twitter profile. You know what I mean? These are great illustrations. So it's Germ, just Germ, Reverso, right? Sorry, Germ, for getting it wrong. Germa is the one who Fiction was very excited to stand next to after winning the Smash Boxing event. All right, now that I've gotten that out of the way, it's cool to have you on. I want to ask you about your origin story, although maybe I should ask you about the artwork first, since we're talking about it. What made you say, I want to have this done of me? You know, you had to reach out to Germ, pay for it and everything, but what was the reasoning behind doing it?
First off, I just wanted a new profile picture because I never just have one on hand. But the fact that this is a player who I remember watching back in 07, 08 when DBR was putting out stuff. So again, whatever I paid for it wasn't that much, but anything to help at that point. And I mean, it's something for the Smash community, and he himself is just a legend. So the fact that I was able to even say, hey, can you do this for me? And he was willing to. That's
amazing. So it's like DBR, you're pulling up some really deep cut references, which I love hearing about. So were you of the right age bracket, that being you love video games and then Melee came out? Do you remember when Melee came out?
I do. Not only do I remember when Melee came out, I remember when Smash 64 came out. It all starts with Smash 64.
So let's talk about Smash 64 then, because I love Smash 64. I brought a Smash remix set up to one of our events recently. Super duper fun. Everyone's going, "What game are you playing? This is Crystal Melee?" I'm like, "No, this is OG. This is OG Smash." But they put in all these characters and stages, and I got some people to play, and they all did not like it because you can't fast fall while you do an aerial. But that's too bad.
Nope. No, I still have not played that yet. But I am such a fan of that game. Like, it's still my second favorite after Melee. And just happened. Like, I still remember like the commercial on TV and how I fell in love with. Like, again, it's Mario, Yoshi, Pikachu, and DK on TV, and like, why would you not want to play that?
Exactly. And I was not old enough to remember either 64 coming out or Melee. I was born in 95, so in 99 I was 4 years old. I didn't know. I had no clue. Yeah. But we were always a generation behind for consoles. So when I was in 2005, I was 10, and YouTube was just about to turn around the corner, and that's when I started watching stuff online. I did not grow up with the download stuff and watch it era. I was just a few years away from that. I really started watching things online almost exactly at the same time as YouTube coming out, and at the end of 2005 going into 2006. So I'm just playing Smash 64 even still. At that time, I knew what Melee was because all my cool friends or cousins had Melee, and I didn't. But I loved playing Smash 64 because I think I noticed even in the first game that I ever played of Melee, it was on the Brinstar Depth stage. I was playing as Bowser because I always loved playing as Bowser in Mario Kart 64. So I noticed, wow, this game's really fast. And then I would go back to 64 and I would go, this is more of my speed. Now I've come to fall in love with the speed of Melee since then. But when I was a kid, I thought I can't really process what's happening right now.
No, I didn't even know. Again, my getting into 64 at that age was completely also by accident. Like, again, at that age, I don't have the money to buy it. So what happened was, after it came out, we were at the store and it was my brother's birthday and he was picking out a game, and he was very close to picking out Mario Party, and I had to convince him to get Smash 64 for his birthday present so I could play it. So we brought it home, played it. We had one controller, but I absolutely fell in love with it.
I was so happy you got that instead of Mario Party. That would have been tough. That's a tough turnaround. Or like, that is your butterfly moment right there.
Yeah. Another thing with it is when we played, and this was before I knew anything about competitive Smash, anytime we played, we'd always went over to a friend's house and he would have spare controllers and we'd play one on one. And one of the things I liked to do was I called it hand to hand back then. And like, let's not use items. Let's go to whatever the flattest stage is with no hazards, and just fight like that. And I didn't have item select on that option yet because you had to unlock it. So anytime an item fell, we just try and not use it. But even back then, I wanted to do something competitive and had no clue that there was a scene for it at some point in the future.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about the fact that item list is not something you actually get to do right off the bat when you open the game. You actually do have to play, I think it's 50 matches to unlock it.
A decent bit, and if you're not paying attention, you don't, it shows up and then you forget about it.
Yes, so this is Kite's just like me, for real. So when you go into Melee, this is probably a little ways down the road. You are now starting to become familiar with the internet as well at the same time, I assume. When you're playing Melee and you go, wow, feels like this is crazy and super cool compared to 64, because it's tough not to look at Melee at a certain point and go, this is objectively better than Smash 64. At what point do you start turning the corner on that, though? Because like I said, for me, that did not happen right away. I had to play Melee several more times until we finally, I finally figured out a character I liked playing as. I did not like playing as Bowser after all. I liked playing as Spaceys. I like playing on Temple. Let's go down to the Cave of Life. No items on though. And that's when I realized this is the game to play now. I can't play 64 as much anymore. What was it like for you in that transition?
So it's funny because we went from 64 to Melee. Again, my brother ended up getting Melee for his birthday or Christmas gift again. And
what are you getting for your birthday?
I don't remember. I think I got Luigi's Mansion when it first came out, and that was it. But we had it, and from sometime in the year it came out to about 2004 maybe. We had the GameCube, we had Melee, we were just playing. I had no clue about a competitive scene. My GameCube breaks in 2004. This is a point where if what happens next doesn't happen, I may never have gone into the Melee community. 2006 rolls around and my buddy gets gifted a GameCube. And one of the games is Melee. And He knows I love it, so he has me come over. So at some point during the summer of 2006, he says, hey, I have a friend who goes to tournaments, and I had no clue there was a tournament scene for, I didn't know about MLG, I didn't know about anything. So he introduced me to a friend who ended up later becoming one of my best friends. And he came over and beat my ass in Melee.
The first baptizing of the Melee. So this was 2006.
Yep.
That was such a great year to stumble upon competitive Melee, because that was when I'd stumbled upon competitive Melee as well. Trying to look up Melee videos, I found that Advanced How to Play by Walk, and then one of the recommended videos is PC Chris versus Ken at MLG New York.
That's still to this day one of my favorite sets.
Yes.
So the first video my buddy shows me is just a video of two people who play Marth and Falco. It's not PC Chris and Ken, but it's two people with the same names as the two friends of his. He's like, yeah, this is them playing, and we later found out it wasn't them playing. It just had to be two other people playing the same characters and with the same name. But he ended up introducing me to another friend, and from there I just got super into it. PC Chris is the reason I even started to play Falco, and then later on switched to Fox.
Holy crap, we are fun. Like, I played Falco on GCC almost exclusively before getting a box around a year ago now, and now I just play Fox on, because I was like, this character was built, the box was built for this character, so I'm gonna play as Fox and not as Falco. And I discovered Up Smash, I discovered Shine. It's been super fun, even if I'm not really good at the game. But PC Chris still lives in the back of my brain somewhere. When you watch some of his later sets versus Mewtwo King, I don't want to say 0-3, but there's some kind of a New York event where they met head to head. Great set on YouTube somewhere. But the one that always sticks with me the most is, I think everything about that MLG New York 2006, for even someone who lives in this day and age right now, where you could show them all kinds of Melee, if you show a new person that set of PC Chris versus Ken, they would understand so many things, because husband and wife in particular in the commentary for the grand finals do such a great job of telling you why this matters, what's going on when something cool happens, and you can hear the crowd, and then they cut between each game, they cut to the players, and you kind of get a sense of, oh wow, okay, so this is starting to become a thing, this upset city, and everybody's freaking out around them. And I think there are sets that do that are more modern, thinking about the Big House 9 or even the Big House 10 with Amsa versus Mango. But you could still show somebody that PC Chris versus Ken, and I think it would really get them would get them peaked. They would understand what's going on. And that's the biggest challenge when you show a new person Melee is, I have to explain everything to this person. And the commentators don't always think new people watching. We're not supposed to think that way anymore. If we're Melee people, we're just supposed to say, if you're watching Melee, chances are you know what's up.
Yeah, no, it specifically Game 3 on Dreamland is the one I always go back to watching.
Yes.
It's I just find myself randomly going back. It's so nostalgic for me to look back on old videos. The MLG Bach videos were just on a constant loop, like before I ever went to my first tournament, just because I wanted to, the experience of being at a tournament and not being able to go yet. It His videos were so impactful that, you know, I would download just the music from those videos to, listen on the way somewhere.
Okay, so it sounded like, though, that you got to tournaments much faster than me. It was not until June of 2021, after the pandemic, when I went to my first IRL Smash event. That was when it finally happened for me. But for you, when was that for you? Do you remember?
It was May. Oh God, I want to say middle of May, and it was 2007. So less than a year later, after finding out, I went to my first tournament. And the funny part is, it wasn't even really supposed to be a tournament. We went up to, again, for the leading up to that, my buddy was always telling me where they used to go for tournaments, and it was up in Scranton called TGP, that gaming place. Um, and it was just, had computers lining the wall, TVs, CRT, whatever. They had a Halo room. And so we, at 16, trying to convince my mom, hey, can I go up to Scranton for an overnight lock-in, essentially, in the middle of Scranton. It was tough, but I ended up able to go. It ended up being a free tournament that night for Melee, and it was random doubles. So I don't even get to team with the people who I'm still new to this game. I'm teaming with someone brand, I don't even know. End up winning doubles. First tournament, end up winning. I still have the prize was an ATI figurine for the old graphics cards, and I still have that to this day up in my closet.
Aw, that's awesome. I did not win the first tournament I went to.
I shouldn't have, because it gave me high hopes for every tournament that followed. And
how many tournaments have you won since the tournament at that gaming place?
Not that many. I've won a handful in singles and doubles, but not that many. Not as many as I wanted to.
So because when you come back from that event, you're going, well, this is it then. I'm gonna be playing and beating Pizza Chris and Ken in no time.
I'm a prodigy. This is it. I'm going to be winning MLG. I'm going to be winning whatever. This is it.
Because you hear it like 2 years ago, not known at all, and look at here he is already going up against the best in the world. This is so exciting, and you go, it's just I could be there. And then reality is a little tough, it's a little cruel. When Brawl came out in early 2008, it was March of 2008. Everybody says it came out in 2007, and they would be wrong, because it was supposed to come out in 2007, but it was delayed until January 31st, 2008 for Japan, and March 3rd, 2008 for North America. I was following the release of that game very closely, because I thought, well, this is just going to be like Melee, except all the way better and everything. But I was still in the casual level, because I'm seeing all this competitive Melee, and I'm going, all right, cool. I'm too young. I just can't. I can't go to these events because my parents won't let me. I didn't even ask. I just assumed no, and I'm more of an introverted person. I know we're talking now, and I'm excited to talk to you. So my introvertism is taking a back seat right now. But you get what I'm saying. When I was a kid, I didn't want to even get onto Smash boards, for crying out loud. So
let me just say, when I was younger, this is coming from someone who had probably one good friend in his life, who was the quiet, shy kid in school, to just numerous Smash friends now, and the one who's screaming at the top of his lungs at a Smash tournament. I mean, Melee has done so much for me, so it's like, I understand where you're coming from.
That's a beautiful thing. That's awesome. You were able to get that friend in, right? Like, it would have been so cool to just be introduced to someone who says, yeah, I go to tournaments and this is where they are, and I'm in Lancaster, PA, so a little bit further down south. You probably know Lancaster being as Amish country, so that's where we are. So it's not exactly a hotbed of competitive gaming talent anyway. If people play video games, they're playing Just Dance, or they're playing Halo or Call of Duty. And when I mentioned Melee, I'm like, Melee, it does have a competitive scene. They go, oh yeah, and I go, yeah, but I don't really know what that is. I just know it's not here. Nobody ever took me to the thing, but it was all due for a reason. The reason being, my first tournament in 2021 was I went 0-2 and I didn't really have that great of a time, but I got the event, and it's led to many amazing events since then, like going to the Big House 10 and going to Genesis 9. So that's for me. Let's go back to 2008. So this is when Brawl comes out. So just take me through what's life like now for you post high school, or getting close to it by now, I imagine. And Brawl comes out and people are saying, well, let's just play Brawl. And you go, what? Or are you as excited to play Brawl as they are?
So still in high school. I don't graduate until 2010 at that point.
Ah,
But again, I since Melee, I ended up meeting a bunch of friends through my one, the first friend who got the GameCube, and my friend Lazy, who ended up essentially training. Like back in the day, it was always like you meet him and it's like, oh, he's going to be like, he trains you, like he's the one who's going to be like, you meet that one Smash player in your neighborhood and it's like he knows what to do. He was the one who taught me how to play essentially a competitive level. um and when Brawl came out, we as every other Melee player was, we were all hyped for the game. We were all I remember watching the trailer over and over, because I mean, look how nice it looked. And then he went out one day, he bought a Wii and Brawl in the same day. We brought it back. It's like, oh, I'm gonna main Sonic, he's gonna main Snake. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun at some point. And it never again. I can have fun with Brawl. It wasn't for me.
the only really redeeming thing is after a few years, they just kind of had little advanced techniques in that game. And thankfully, ledge hogging was still a thing. I thought I was going to flip out when I saw that edge hogging was no longer a thing starting in Smash 4 and on. Talk about killing the atmosphere of a platform fighter,
Right.
where the ledge is now free. That's one of the reasons why I have a hard time playing Ultimate, and we will talk about Ultimate a little bit because we play with our with our respective offspring. But
Mhm.
the fact, I love ledge play so much in Brawl and in Melee and in 64. They have their own little unique isms. Oh, and P plus as well. I'm sure we'll get to that in just a minute. But Brawl was tough because I made the observation, there's tripping and the air dodges. I know I don't really like air wave dashing because I didn't really like practicing super competitive techniques. I just worked on L cancel and short hop laser with Falco, and that was about it. I just like, this is not going to be good for competitive play after playing it for a couple of months. And sure, there was a competitive scene around Brawl, but that's where the dark age begins, because there are people saying, well, we're not going to just go back to Melee, and they move on with their lives because they're getting to the point where they go, well, I guess I should probably move on to other things. But then there are a little teeny group of people, small at the time, but lived on and said, let's just keep playing Melee. And who cares if I'm 20 now, or if I'm 25, or if I'm 30? I'll just keep playing Melee. So for you, what was that like when you realized, okay, this is not the move? Are we going back to Melee, or did you do other games? Because that's kind of how it went for me. I was like, I'm still not going to a tournament because Melee's probably dead now. So I'm just gonna play other games. I love playing Legend of Zelda. Like, what was it like for you?
We So again, we tried Brawl. It just wasn't for us. We TGP, that gaming place, still did, I think, another few tournaments up in Scranton, and they did Brawl and they did Melee. So which was nice. So I mean, we still were able to attend something. Um, During that time, I also like got slightly into Counter Strike. I got into Halo a bit. The other major esport type FPSs that are out. StarCraft was huge. Um, but no, we kind of just stuck with Melee. Like we kept the GameCube on. We just kept playing. Um, it slowed down, obviously. Like again, we kept up with Revival of Melee happened. Revival of Melee 2 happened not too long after that. So again, if anything else, life and school got in the way, but Melee was always there for us when we got back home.
Were you on the internet waves as Evo starts to ramp up and the fundraiser begins, or did you get back onto the horse after you saw the documentary that came out later that year, or any of the big tournaments that were starting to become more of a thing, like Apex, the Big House, all that
So,
stuff?
um, Ape, I was paying attention to the whole thing when the Evo fundraiser happened. I was, I again, like many players, I donated. I watched the Spirit Bomb live stream and all that. Um, Apex 2013 was my first major. Again, I started in 2006 technically. So many years later, I finally end up getting to a major and actually experience the whole, sleep on someone's floor that you don't know. Um, and then end up going 0-2 in pools. I ended up playing West Balls, and he just beat me up.
Mm.
Uh, but no, I remember keeping up with as many tournaments as I could. Again, when Genesis happened, there was no live stream. There was no, YouTube stuff was up a week or so later. I remember being at my other friend's house, looking at, on his computer, refreshing Smashboards, trying to get updates. Um, but I tried to keep up with it as much as I could up, you know, every year.
Were you part of the top 8 experience at Apex 2013? Because that was the I need a longer dash top 8.
I was there for top 8. Yes, I remember being there for top 8. I didn't. I stayed for Melee. I didn't watch Mewtwo King lose in Brawl.
No. There's no need. But I'm seeing here. I've watched the new Samox documentary, the metagame documentary,
Yep.
and I did like this sequence because Dr. PP just saying, you know what, I need a longer dash. That's the reason to switch to Marth is so funny to me. And then just kind of like just feeling silly about playing grand finals. And the whole time that you're watching this sequence in the documentary, you just see Armada laser focusing in.
Yeah.
He's not having any fun whatsoever. He's just focusing on winning.
Yep. PPMD's waving to the crowd in between stocks. I remember that. I was again. It was my first major event. I was definitely watching top 8. I watched the USA versus World Crew battle. I don't know if you remember the Hacks and Leffen beef that was happening back then, but that was a major part of the crew battle. Um, it was such a fun event for me. I ended up getting a parking ticket, and I still had like the best time of my life.
So that would be like, since that was your first major, you still remember that well enough to say that's like the sort of another moment where you go, no matter what part of the tournament that happens, to seem to be having a good time, because like you said, if you get a parking ticket, you go, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because Apex was also close enough, you were able to drive to it, I assume, and drive with somebody, or did you just go by yourself to stay in houses you didn't know, that whole thing?
So funny enough, not too, I would say maybe less than a year earlier, I had posted on Smashboards. We had a local card shop. I was like, hey, I'm going to be at so and so if anyone wants to come out and play Melee. And I never looked at it after I posted it. I just ended up going and hanging out with 2 other friends who were there for I think WoW TCG. And I just had my setup. And someone comes over and said, hey, are you Kite from Smashboards? And I said, yeah. And I didn't know who it was. And he sat down and played. Said, oh, cool. Can we play some matches? And we're playing. And he brings up TGP TGP at some point. I'm like, how the hell does this guy know about TGP? And why is he so good? And I end up learning, shortly. I was like, who are you? And he's like, oh, I go by Triad Prodigy. And he used to be a relatively well-known PA Falco back in the 05, 06 days. Who, again, my friends told me about. And I had no clue. And he responded to me on Smashboards, and I didn't realize he responded. So we became friends. And I played with him for quite some time. We teamed at a tournament. We went to a couple. And he introduced me to another friend of his who goes by Coolin. and me, him, and Prodigy all go to Apex together. We stay at some Rutgers student smasher house apartment, and you know, ever since then we've been friends, and you know, I was able to experience you know a major with someone who's used to go to MLG back in the day and used to know PC Chris, and it was just I got to experience the full Smash experience.
And that sounded like a great tournament to be able to do that, because then you get a few years more down the line, Apex 2015. Anybody who I've talked to who attended said trash event because of how poorly it was stitched back together after falling apart. And you do the best you can. Getting a venue overnight, that's crazy. So shout outs to Scar and Twitch, I guess. And cool.
I think it was Red Bull and a whole bunch of other people.
But like, it sounds like the way that you're talking about it from your point of view, Apex 2013, great event to go to, great first major to go to. How many majors would you say off the top of your head have you been to since? Like, have you been to 10 plus, 20 plus, 30 plus?
Unfortunately, I think I've been less than 10, and like it's really like I've always wanted to travel to go to Pound. I've always wanted to go to Genesis, Big House. It's just either I didn't have the money or I couldn't find my group of friends just wasn't into traveling that far. And that also kept me from going to events. Like I didn't like traveling alone at that point. Like I liked having someone in the car with me.
Absolutely.
So that kind of like deterred me from probably attending more than I wanted to. Major wise, I went to Apex 13, 14, 15, 16. I went to Zenith 2016, I think it was. And I went to Royal Flush, were the major ones.
Ooh, you were at Royal Flush. What a tournament to travel all the way out to for that. Can we talk about that?
Please. Before we do, I want to say I enjoyed, again, the whole everything that happened with Apex 2015. Overall, watching that happen first person and seeing the community come together was absolutely amazing. Because we had showed up. I'd already played my first round pools, and then they kicked us out. This is the weekend of my birthday and everything. Like I can't wait to have a fun 3-day weekend playing Smash, and they kick us out, and we end up waiting at one of the guys who went with us, his brother's house, his apartment, and we're waiting. And everyone's like, "Do we just go home?" And I said, "Give it a little bit more." And he's like, "Well, can we go home? 2 hours later, can we go home now?" I'm like, I trust that they're gonna figure this out. Like I don't doubt they're not gonna. Like there's no way they're not gonna. And then, we end up finding a new venue. I think it was like hour and a half away. I find a better hotel room for us all, and I end up having what I thought was a very fun weekend.
So it was a little rocky there during the transition to the new venue, but otherwise you had an anime moment basically, because you're like, I think they will figure this out.
I fully believe them. I'm like, just give them a little longer, and they did. Very proud of seeing the scene come together for that.
Especially all the TOs. I love TOs. Okay, but sometimes I wonder, what does it take to see all of them come together in the same room and work together so beautifully again? That's
Avengers level moment.
It's like
super team up.
I know that Sheridan and Juggle Guy get along splendidly and that kind of thing, but if we all these super TOs could work together, not on one big event, but I do know, like for myself, the temptation is very great to look around you and realize, mostly we're all doing this for the love of the game and for pride, because we're not getting money. So pride's basically the only thing you have left to hang your hat on in your competitive spirit. So for a TO, it's not always being competitive about throwing the quote unquote best event. That's not always the TO's like the main drive behind running an event, but there are people. I mean, like Aiden has talked about this before. Aiden has said before, I wanted to run the best Smash events. That was a big motivator for me, and doing it with like meddling resources that seem to set his back on fire even more.
What again? It was incredible just watching all these, these minds come together who all love this game and community and fix such a dumpster fire that was going on. Like they made it work. They ran a 3-day tournament in 2 days. They moved an entire tournament just over an hour away to a completely different venue. And I'm like, regardless if you thought the event wasn't great, I mean, you have to give it to the people who, did so much to at least make it work.
And even still at this point, I would hear about things like, a roof collapsing in or whatever, but I was about as far away from competitive Melee. I didn't watch anything live as you could get, but it was after getting married for some reason, starting to have children. I just still go, I had already gotten rid of a lot of my video games at this point, to my greatest regret. Nintendo Wii's are expensive right now, but yep. I did do that. I did, and gave my GameCube to my brother. So thankfully, at least that's still around. But I'm just being pulled in by different things, and I'll go, okay, cool. And I'll try to leave because I'm going, well, I'm married and everything. I should really not do it. Not get into more of this Melee stuff. It's not for adults, but my heart kept pulling me. But you're in the sauce of this. So if you were going to big events even in 2016, you're 6 years removed from high school. So did you go to college and that kind of thing?
I didn't. I went. I was pretty much just working. Started working like a year after. Took a break. Took about a year break before I was able to find anything. Ended up working with my friend Lazy, and so again, we would go to work, come home, play Melee. Go to work, come home, play Melee.
Nice.
It was a nice setup for a while.
Well, why'd you stop?
Ended up moving out. Ended up moving home. Later got into a relationship. Ended up getting a different job. And then once you get into a relationship, it's if they don't know the scene, if they don't already attend and know tournaments, it's like, well, it's kind of hard to, leave them and go do, hey, I'm gonna go play video games for a few hours and probably lose money.
Well, being in a relationship is also a financially risky conquest. Yes. But yes, no, I know what you're saying. Jen cares. So she cares so little. She is the moon to my sun of, this is how I feel about Melee. This is how she feels about Melee. There are 1 or 2 videos that I try to do with her in a year or so. I'll do at least 1 video a year where I sit her down and I'm we're going to talk about Melee stuff and record it. The last one that we did was very fun to do, and I loved how much you could see that she hated doing that, and I'm just having a blast, and she's dunking on me, and it's super fun. So yes, I know exactly what you mean. If the person that you're in a relationship with cares nothing about Melee, you will not be able to really get them into Melee unless somehow there's a crossover thing. But Melee players, one thing I'll say about us, we're kind of just in that niche. I think Melee players are the most likely of the bunch, in my mind, that stick to the game. There's a fair percentage of people who play other games that also play Melee, but there's a dangerous amount of Melee players who don't really play any other games. I'd be one of them. I don't really play any other video games or computer games anymore. Maybe the occasional Bubble Trouble. I keep coming back to that because it tickles my nostalgia, but I couldn't be really bothered to play other games and have a good time. I'm just thinking to myself, you know what? No, I want to play Melee, and that's kind of what happens. Oh, and Smash 64. I will say that, but that's almost even worse. So you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I totally understand.
When you get to the pandemic, by now you have lived a Melee lifetime, because I think I think it's fair to say that people will spend 3 or so years just getting deeper and deeper into the game and into the community. They'll start doing things. They'll start running events, maybe. They might try their hand at contenting, streaming. Yep. And then another 3 years will go by and things start to die down, or the momentum stalls, or they realize they will not be the best player in the world or even the best player in their house if you're living with other smashers. And that it gets to you and you go, what am I doing with my life? And so you have stuck around. So I'm interested in hearing in how the sticking around happens. And I think another crossover thing, sorry, not crossover, another crossroads event that happens. So we talked about Brawl coming out and how that forced a lot of people to make a decision, either play a really old game, or just start doing other things in life or play newer games. And people did what they decided to do. But now with the pandemic coming in 2020, that forced a lot of people to go, you know what? I travel a lot to go to Melee events, and for what? Or I do this, that, and the third. I think now that I can't do Melee in person with people anymore, I think I'm just gonna calls it quits. And so for you, what was it like going into the first couple of months of the pandemic, having to deal with everything, not just the fact that, oh, I guess I won't be going to Melee events for a while?
So both luckily and not so lucky for me. So in 2018 is when my daughter was born. And in 2018 is when I had decided to try to attend my final Melee tournament down in Lehigh. I was like, well, I'm gonna have a baby. I'm not gonna be able to attend that much, and might as well just try and go to one more. Let me see all the friends I made and whatnot, and play one last nice round of Melee. So we did that. Had a great time, and I was like, hey, that's it, I quit. I'm not gonna play Melee anymore. And then I think in 2019 I went to one local back down in Lehigh, hosted by Battery, who you had on the podcast not too long ago.
Let's go.
And I went to one. It was nice to see everybody again, but that was the only one of the year I went to. And then I think 2012, when the pandemic happened, it was like, well, now what? I think Slippy came out not too long after, so I was able to at least get Melee in and play it. But the overall tournament urge to try and win, try and get better, kind of slowly died in 2018 for me. Every so often after I see Mango play, I wanna get back in there and try again. But for the most part, the want to be a top player has slowly dwindled.
What do you think you would say winning a tournament in 2023 when they have you go onto the stream to talk to the commentators, or just the one, the other one takes off their headset and gives it to you, and now it's time for you to declare anything you want to declare after winning this big event, whatever it may be. Maybe it's that pound event that you never got to go to, which will not be running this year. So shout outs to VGBC, I guess.
Oh man, what would I say? If I won a Melee event, I truly don't know what I would even say. I'd probably say thank you. I mean, this scene has done so much. I mean, where I am now, like the number of friends I have all been made, whether they want to agree with it or not, because of Melee. Even if they don't play Melee, I met one person through Melee, and then he introduced me to someone else who played Melee, and maybe they introduced me to someone who happened to not play Melee. But every one of my close friends, it's because of this game, and where I am in life is because of this game. Because I don't know where I would be otherwise. So probably just thank you to the overall just scene.
After doing all that hard work and then going through the effort of beating, like, if it's a big event, you'd be beating somebody like Hungrybox or Kadoran or Moki. What if you beat Moki in grand finals and everyone would be excited, but you would get up from your seat and you'd look at the crowd and you'd go, oh, they're upset.
They hate me. I'm like, sorry, maybe you should have played better. Listen, I can't say that. I would get double four stocked by him.
Oh, of course. No, absolutely. That would be me as well.
Again, I honestly don't know what would happen in that situation. I've dreamed of the situation of of making the Mango Losers Run and winning a tournament. And some, even for locals and these mini majors. But I am very content with playing my pools, going 0-3, 0-2, whatever, and then just sitting in the stands watching. Yeah, I think I'm very content with where I've been in my Melee career.
Being more on the sidelines and then going to the every now and again event, is that what you're able to do nowadays?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I want to try and go a few every year if I can. I went to, I think, 2 last year, down in Lehigh. Again, it's the closest for me for Melee. And I plan on going. You had Gene on not too long ago, and he's hosting a Melee event, April 8th in Lehigh at some brewery.
Yes, Lost Tavern, I believe it is. I'm looking at it right now.
Yep, Short Hops. I'm very excited for that. But again, I would love to go to another major. I would love to just attend and hang out and whatnot. But I have to see what happens.
Well, see, the thing is, this whole carpooling thing, I'm trying to make it known in my region that I'm a big carpooling person. I'm hoping to go back to the big house this year. We drove up last time. It was me, M Pale, aka George, and Heather. They're the long-term partners, boyfriend, girlfriend. You know what? I don't really care about the label part. I just know they've been in a relationship for a long time, so they love each other. You get it. So went up with Heather and George up to the big house in the cars packed with CRTs and setups, because George it has just like 20 of them at his place. So cool. And I said, can I have one? Can I buy one? And he said, no. He said, tough breaks. You got to get one yourself. Other places. But George will help me with it if I say, can you help me put like the slippy stuff into this so I don't have to have a Wii remote in order to select Melee every time. He would help me do that, but he wouldn't sell me one of the setups that he has.
I had a Wii, and you also had God Touch on not too long ago, and I gave him a Wii. And I said, I need you to hack this so I don't need a Wiimote and I can just play Melee. And I still have that Wii, and I still use it every so often.
Let's go, God Touch. That's awesome. Like they'll help you out, but they also say, hey, look, you gotta make an effort here. You gotta show up and do something. And it used to scare me, Kite. It used to scare me when I thought about the prospect of having to do a lot of things to get to a point where I wanted to be, because I'm the kind of person. I described this to my lovely wife Jen as we've been watching Abbott Elementary, which is a show you can watch on Hulu if you so desire. But the two main characters that are supposed to fall in love in a Jim Pam style, they're co-workers and they like each other, but there's other things going on in their life right now. And I'm saying to Jen, they're like trees. They just will not, they just stay put, and it's very annoying. And these other characters who are kind of more like the breeze coming through and swaying the trees, those are the people that are snap them up and be in relationships with other people when no, you two need to be together. It's unfortunate. So that's kind of me. I would say, well, I'm safe here in my little zone. But in order to be in the zone that I want to be in, that is playing Melee, looking around me, seeing everybody having a good time and being degenerate, takes effort to do. So that's why when I broke through that barrier in 2021 and had been able to go to events since then, it's been great, because now I feel that fear and that uncomfortableness that I used to have, not as if it's totally disappeared, because now I have to be careful with communicating to Jen, hey, like 6 months from now, I want to do this tournament on this day, or this weekend, I will fly on this day, I'll fly back on that day, and this is what the trip is going to be like. This is where I'm going to be going to. This is the people I'm going to be. I have to like lay this all out so that she understands, and also she kind of gets the idea. Okay, you're not doing this haphazardly, because funds aren't like 100% always readily available to go out to like the big house or San Jose to go to Genesis 9. But shouts out to the Patreon for making that happen. But you get what I'm saying. I have to be very upfront and like this is going to happen. So the next event, other than the locals for me, is there's a monthly down in Baltimore called M Series. The last one that they had showed Junebug placing second with Junebug's Donkey Kong, an all Donkey Kong bracket. Beat Polish's Peach.
I didn't hear about that.
And forced Polish to switch to Fox, and then Junebug beat Polish's Fox in losers. So funny.
This past year again have just been, we've seen DKs pop out of nowhere recently. And I know everybody was talking about J-Mook, winning Genesis with a solo Sheik, but I feel like everyone forgot that we just had a Yoshi win 2 majors, this year in 22, and I mean, again, Melee's not dying anytime soon. It's not like it's still changing, and it's just again seeing these DKs, seeing these Dr. Mario's just coming out randomly with Mario. Well, maybe not Mango's Doc, but other Doc players coming out.
Not good enough to beat Taj again at Genesis. All those years later, Taj beats Mango in winners again. What is happening? Yeah. This was my first like Illuminati thing. I call it Illuminati. It's not that big of a deal. One of the cool things that happened at Genesis 9 specifically is I was how have you seen Mean Girls, like Rachel?
It's been a long time.
McAdams and Lindsay Lohan. Yes. Yep. So she pulls up in the car, says, "Get in, loser. We're going shopping." Yeah. That happens to me. Wheat of Melee Stats, give me that. Wheat says to me, "All right, we're gonna watch the Eagles game." I was like, "Yes." And he's like, "All right, follow me." And like then there's Blur, and then there's Aaron who helps run Riptide, and I go, "Okay, cool, word." So I'm beating Blur, and we're gonna watch an Eagles game together. Okay, cool. That happens, and I brought this up specifically to talk about what? To talk about the fact that it happened. No, there was something I was trying to tie these thoughts together about Melee not dying and about Mango. Yes, when Mango lost to Taj, Doc Lee, the Mario versus Taj's Mewtwo, I'm seeing Blur just like do this. He's like big hand palms, and he goes, "You know what? We should get him over here and just get him drunk." That's probably what he'd want to do anyway. Find a bar, go get drunk, watch the Eagles. It didn't end up happening, but I thought to myself, that would be a wild turnaround from where I was a couple of years ago, where I had known about Mango for a long, long time. And I've met Mango before as like, "Oh, you're in my pool. It's nice to meet you. I'm a fan. It's cool that you're here. Good luck in the bracket." But I was like, am I about to watch my favorite football team, the Eagles, with people who I really like? Well, Wheat in particular. Wheat is my guy. But then is Mango about to show up? And that's something that's part of the reason why even though something fun like a Dr. Mario versus Mewtwo match can happen in Super Smash Bros. Melee, a game made in 2001, but then you're watching an Eagles game and very possibly meeting that person. All these kind of things happen just because you show up in San Jose, right? That's the kind of thing that I'm getting at, that the reason why Melee doesn't have a chance at even dying despite BTS. You heard about the Beyond the Summit news, like everybody else, and the big thing is, of course, that there's not going to be these cool events anymore, and that you are most likely losing that big stream that kind of everybody knows and follows on Twitch. That's a big deal, but yet somehow I have no doubts about how Melee will do, because I just know it's going to happen anyway. You were talking about how beautiful it is to see the Melee community come together to save Apex 2015. That moment for me was seeing the Melee community come together after the Big House Online got shut down by Nintendo and 5 Days of Melee happened. I didn't help with 5 Days of Melee, but I was close enough to it, seeing the work that people like Walt and JDMH and then others, etc., putting in for that event. Oh, and Matt Dobb Zeb, excuse me. Shouts out to Matt Dobb Zeb.
Yep.
It was like that was when I became fully convinced that nothing will ever happen to the community or to Melee that would make it go into the darkness and only have 5 people in the world who actively play on Slippy. Even right now, there are hundreds and hundreds of Melee players just itching to get into ranked and to get their sets in for the day. And then all these big tournaments still being big, and SmashCon being announced a couple of days after BTS's announcement of shutting down. It's tough to see the ones that treat us well go, but somehow we still have Gommel, Collision, Battle BC, SmashCon, and Major Upset. See, there you go. 5 events all happening before the end of August that are going to be super cool and fun to watch.
Yeah, no, Beyond the Summit did so much for the scene. And I hope they truly know just, what they meant to the Smash scene as a whole, Ultimate and Melee. But I think, again, it's sad to see them go, but something else is going to come along. There's no way. Again, we went from MLG to not having like any major circuit. We got Revival of Melee. We had Genesis. We had Apex. We had that like the mini circuit leading up to Apex. We had Evo back. We had we had all this. Something else is going to pop up. When, what, we don't know. But I have full faith that we're going to get something. Whether Ludwig steps in and just throws money at the scene again. But I do believe, again, the Invitational was just so fun because you had just top players. It was the best of the best. It was essentially a day 3, but every day you watch the event. But I fully believe that something else is going to pop up. Just again, we don't know when.
I mean, there's not that Golden Guardians did it perfectly with they had the gauntlet a month ago or so, and that involved getting even Laud out from PA to fly out to Los Angeles for the weekend and then do a show match, and that was it. And you could Golden Guardians, I'm just saying, that would be cool to see in a summit format. Now, of course, it does take a lot, and it's not just the players, it's also the couch commentary, the Mafia games, the dropping a CRT from the 2nd floor or the 3rd floor, whatever it is, and then my favorite, the skits. I love the skits.
Absolutely.
That takes a lot of work and a lot of people to make that all go off without a hitch. But shout outs to BTS now and forever and always. I mean, and that facility, it looked so cool. I wish I could have gone. I thought every time since I've been podcasting, I look at that $1,000 VIP and I go, I can't do it, but I want to so bad. Now I almost wish that I went into crippling debt and me and my wife and kids thrown onto the street, but I got to see Mango win Summit. I don't know. It's tough. Hindsight's 2020.
Yes. No. The Mango winning Summit, Mewtwo King winning Summit, Mewtwo King and Mango were my 2 favorite summits of them winning. Just again, Mewtwo King was always, you always want to see him do well. I think, I personally always thought, when Mewtwo King's on, he was probably the best player. But watching those happen, I remember just, God, I want to get back into Melee. I just want to keep playing. I want to play this game forever.
Yes, when you watch somebody do really well, it just makes you go, oh, I want to, yeah.
Yep.
I rather play that good Melee too. Yep. I love that. Those are the real ones as well. You are among them, Kite, where you go see cool Melee, and then you just try to make that for yourself. You just feel it running through your veins. So when you and when your little one you're playing mostly Ultimate now, is it because her favorite character is not in Melee, or because Ultimate's just easier to pull up?
We play both. I mean, to be fair, we played Ultimate a few times. There's just so many different characters in that game, but she knows Pikachu, she knows Mario, she knows the Yoshi. So again, those are the ones she'll mainly play. But I don't think she cares which game is which. She just likes to have fun.
I play Ultimate mostly with Ellie and Ezra because Ellie says to me the one on the big TV is fun because we have a flat screen, and it is bigger than just about any CRT probably. Well, no, it is bigger than any CRT ever. I did manage to snag a big CRT, but it's tough. It's a nice TV, and Ultimate's big and flashy, and they have not just Princess Peach, but also Daisy and Rosalina and Luma and Zelda. Well, Zelda is also in Melee, but okay, so let me name one more character in a dress because I think I'm missing one.
Palantina, right? Palantina.
Yep, Palutena. She likes playing as Palutena as well. Yep. That's it for that. But when I get them when I get them to play Melee and we go to temple and something cool happens and they smile, just it does warm my heart. It just hopefully we'll be able to make more of that happen. Just like drip it in. Maybe I'll show them a set at some point when they're old enough to hear curse words, and then they'll care nothing about it whatsoever because it's dad's thing. That's probably what's going to happen. I am trying to steel myself, but also I hope they like it.
It's funny. I've had majors on, all the smart TVs have Twitch now on the app. So I'll put Melee on the big screen TV watching like it's a football game, and she comes and just sits down and watches it. And it's like, that's the game you play. Like it's so, I don't know what the right word. It makes me feel so old seeing her being 4 years old watching the game that I played back, when it first came out. There's something special about that.
Absolutely. When I put some of these big events on the TV in the living room, Ellie just basically goes, okay, who's who, and I'm picking that one because of the color that they're wearing. Or if there's a peach on the screen, she's automatically like, nope, I want the peach player to win.
That one.
Every time. And when it's Laud, most of the time, she's very happy because Laud wins a lot of sets that he plays.
Yeah, he is a very good peach.
Okay, so last thing is, what would you say to if there's a, I say if, I really hope there is a big house, but because I see no announcement, I cannot assume that there will be automatically a big house. So I will cross my fingers, but would you go up to the big house if we carpooled? Would you do that, Kite?
Man, I would absolutely love to carpool to big house. Again, it's always been one of those guys just get in a car and just go to a tournament. Again, going back to the MLG Bach, those videos, you see husband and wife and Bach is in the backseat and they're just carpooling all the way to some random tournament. I'm like, I miss those days. Like, let me just, drive as far as possible and play Melee.
It's not that bad of a drive from Lancaster, although I'm pretty sure where you are in northern PA, it'd be better to see if you can carpool with some New York people, but I think a lot of those New York people fly on an airplane.
Probably a little bit smarter, but again, the driving is an experience in itself.
That's exactly right. Yes, we had many a conversation that awkwardly trailed off, and then we all just stayed quiet for 20 minutes while the music played, and then somebody would go, oh, look at that, and then we'd talk about schools or something for about 15 minutes, trail off awkwardly. And I'm saying this in a derivative way, but I was actually having a good time.
If you're in the car with the right people, it's a great time. I went to a Penn State tournament with people from up in Scranton who I knew, and it went from talking about Melee to talking about pop punk bands to having Disney tunes being played on the radio.
It just happens so quickly. That's awesome. Yeah. Shouts out to Penn State. I want to, but also need to. But also Pittsburgh. So I'm hoping, okay, I also want to go to the Short Hops tournament. So how about that? Let's just meet there in person and then go from there. April 8th, Short Hops. Not only will there be sick Melee in Philadelphia proper, because this is the No John's 3 is in Philadelphia proper, but I should be shouting out No John's 3 because that's going to be a nice little regional there. It's not going to be as big as Creed 3 perhaps, or maybe it will be, but the point is that No John's 3 is in Philly proper. This one's in Hellertown. That Lost Tavern for Short Hops that Gene Dahl is putting on will be releasing beer cans that Melee artists, or at least Melee adjacent artists, have designed the artwork for. New beers being dropped. So I don't drink, but I'm buying one just to like have it.
I'm picking them up. Yep.
I'll dump it out and then I'll keep it.
Yeah, I fully plan to buy a 4-pack if I can.
So let's start with that. Okay, April 8th, short hops in Hellertown. So you could just find it by doing that. Oh, and check out the trailer on @GeneDollar on Twitter. Super fun. All right. I think I'm about done on my side. Was there anything that you wanted to get to? We didn't get to talk about absolutely everything in Melee, but I feel like we covered enough things that in the span of an hour we've gotten to do a lot, Kite, and I've been very happy. But what about you? Is there anything that you wanted to talk about before we wrap up here?
Oh, I'm trying to think. You wanted to talk about Royal Flush before, but we can always save that for another time if you want to have me on.
Well, I love hearing that when people say they want to come back now, and I know they had at least a somewhat enjoyable time, but that is tempting though, because I did want to hear about Royal Flush. Yeah, I gotta hear it now. We'll have you back on anyway, because
Okay.
there's always so much more Melee to be talked about and played and talked about and played.
Of course. Oh god. So I went to Royal Flush with Battery and 2 other LV players, Scry and Josh. Again, I went to Atlantic City, I think, some odd months prior to it for another tournament. I don't care for the city, but again, the overall venue was nice. Again, it was a nice venue. It was, I personally think, very well done. I would think I went 1 and 2 in pools. I think I've only ever made it out of pools at any type of mini major once. I remember watching Mango lose and being, I think, like near the front row and watching his losers run, and being in person for a Mango's loser run is probably one of the best Melee experiences you're gonna get. The overall tournament, I think, went great for me. Just having fun. I've had 2 or 3 different people come up to me and ask if I remembered them. I'm like, that's a top player thing. Don't like you go up to a top player and like, do you remember me from the last tournament? But I had like 2 people come up, and I remember playing so many different people, seeing so many different friends from over the years. But I was really hoping for Royal Flush to happen again, and then it didn't, and then I got really sad. I think I ended up having Mango sign a T-shirt I won, and I was like, this is the only time I'm ever going to have someone sign a T-shirt, because I have such a weird mindset with the top players and signing stuff. But overall, the overall tournament experience was absolutely amazing.
So cool. Front row for a Mango run. I have not witnessed the Mango run myself. I went to Pound in 2022, and that was my first major. So I thought, you know what? I will let myself ask people if they want to take pictures and everything else, because I can't stand the idea of doing that on a normal basis, because I want to eventually, if not play these people, I want to interview these people, and I don't want to be, I'm already such a scrub by asking people for podcast interviews. I can't also be the guy who asks for pictures or signatures on stuff. So I let myself fanboy for one tournament. I had to work really hard to get Josh Mann to cooperate because he was just talking so much.
Yeah.
But it was also funny. And I was like, you know what? This is fair. I am asking for, I have been asking for pictures with Josh Mann for 2 minutes, and he just keeps on going off on the different tangents. And I go, so the
picture.
I hate having to ask you again, but the picture, it was fun. It was fun. And then I realized after all of this happened, and Josh Mann tells me, you should take a picture with Bundon. He's like an up and coming streamer. He's going to be really good one day, man. And so I take a picture with his friend Bundon, who I do follow on Twitter and is a super cool person. But after all of this, I was so done. I was like, I don't want to talk to anybody anymore. I hate this. I hate that I made myself do this just to get a stupid picture. The whole time, Nunn was just standing right there, and I see him and I just go pass, and I walk away. Like, I don't say a word to him, because I'm just like, nope, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Can't do it.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever went up and asked for a picture. Again, man, I was the only person I ever wanted. I had signed something. It was just in the moment because of how, again, a loser's run into Grand Finals reset versus Armada, which is never going to happen again.
Game
That was,
15.
that
Yeah,
was,
it's a rarity.
it was truly a special moment.
You were not recorded forever at the very least. You know that person at the end of the Big House 4 in the metagame documentary who said, "Oh, I won so much money," and Mango says, "How much did you win?" Like, yeah, like almost $20. Literally verbatim. Yeah, almost like $20. I know inflation is a thing, but
Yeah,
that's a meager sum in
yeah, it's not
2014.
much.
Not wait, like almost. He said like almost 20.
Like almost enough to put gas in my tank.
Yes, so it's cool to hear about Royal Flush because when you go back and watch those three sets versus Mango versus Armada, it felt like in a lot of ways it felt like peak melee. And I know that whenever Armada's losing to Mango, there's a certain chink in the armor that Mango's found inexplicably, or maybe it's the fact that Armada traveled all the way from Sweden and is on jet lag. Maybe it's the controller. Who even knows? Because I'm saying that because I remember Armada dropping out of a tournament or two because he didn't have the quote unquote right controller to play. But what I'm getting at is that even still, if Armada is being beaten by Mango in a tournament, and people could say, "Oh, well, Armada wasn't playing that well," it's still peak melee. So, like when you watch Zane versus Mango at Smash Summit 11, you watch those grand finals, and you say, "Okay, well, Zane could have been playing so much better." I mean, yeah, maybe true, but like he has to play perfect against Mango on the losers run, and that's what it takes to win these tournaments. That's what it takes to be like a top 10 forever player, that kind of thing, which Zane will be. Of course, I'm not saying that he's not a top 10 forever player. He's won several majors by now, so only like 12 people can say that in Melee's entire history, which is also a crazy thing. We've been around for 20 years and there's not that many people who's won multiple majors. That's crazy. Crazy.
Nope.
Like Hungrybox, Mango, and Armada, and I guess a little bit of not even PPMD and Mewtwo King have won that many majors compared to like Hungrybox has won like more than 30 and Armada won 20 plus and Mango's won 20 plus. It's crazy.
There's still time. I mean, we're gonna see again. We've seen people show up in, like IBDW just went on a rampage the past few years. Zane went on a rampage. Like, it's ever changing. I think the fascinating part is Mango and HBox are still top 5, top 5 players in the world, and it's just seeing new faces show up in the top 10 and then still seeing two old faces just remain there like unable to be moved. It's just something special.
So who do you think is going to be, if because you would have to pick someone who's not a top 5 player right now, and I guess you could technically say Jmook because he was at number 6 in the most recent Melee top 100 list, but what would you say is who would you say, excuse me, is a lock for top 5 player moving forward who has not previously been top 5?
Not previously. Oh boy.
You can't say Jmook because he's not technically top 5 right now.
I mean, he's the obvious answer, right? Like it would have to be him. Like there's no way. Like something would have to happen where he just doesn't win anything this year for him to just drop off that list. It would have to be Jmook, and he's been so fun to watch. He's been at like seeing his Sheik compared to how we used to have Mewtwo Kings and we had Plups and we had Shroomed, and just watching his Sheik do play so differently and play his style of melee. Because I mean, today with most Spaceys, it's the same Spacey. I play Spaceys, but like I have such a bias against them. Like no one's different. Like no one's original with Spaceys anymore. It seems like there's a handful. There's a handful. Like you have the top players who have their own style, but all the newer crowd, it's just triple shine, hack stashes, and all that, and there's nothing special about it. But Jmook's Sheik it makes you want to switch from any other character just to play Sheik.
Yes, I certainly have. Like when I have to play on a GCC, and if I don't have my box on me, I play Sheik. Well, partially because I just can't play. I can't play Falco or Fox on GCC anymore. It's too much. But when I think of like an amazing player combined with technicality and then style, I thought that Spark was going to be that Sheik in 2020 and in 2021. I was like, yeah, Spark's gonna be like this up and coming player who can then start to place top 4 or maybe even take a tournament with this Sheik, because this Sheik is really, really good. But when I first saw Jmook, it was at an online nightclub in like the first or second week in January of 2021, and he like is in losers to start top 8 and just absolutely destroys Ginger, which I felt bad about because Ginger seems to be the player to have people destroy him so that everybody talks about, wow, who's this new player? Poor Ginger. But that was like a revelation to me. And then there were 1 or 2 other online events that Jmook entered in 2021, and I was so mad because I was like, Jmook, enter more stuff. So when he entered Genesis 8 and finished second, I was like, I told y'all. And now most of the Melee people knew who Jmook was because they also saw these online events like I did. But yeah, this Sheik, Jmook's, is somehow even flashier most of the time and more technical and savvy and then consistent on tech chasing than anybody else. And the style comes through so much that when you watch him, it does feel like you're watching a new character. And that's probably the biggest compliment that you could give any professional Melee player, where you say, I'm not watching Sheik necessarily, I'm watching like this new character somehow.
The things he was doing just were absolutely insane, and again, it makes you want to play that character. And I really hope he stays around in that top 5, top 3 space, because I think he's going to make it. I think 2023, I think he's easily going to be ranked top 3. But I'm excited to see how he plays and how he does.
And I'm excited to see maybe the Mango Marth after he retires. He was talking about it on the Yard podcast. He's like, maybe I'll just play Marth. And they all got excited because who wouldn't want to see Mango Marth in 2027 or whatever?
The Switch would be fun. Again, he went from Puff to Spaceys. Now I would love to see the Mango Marth.
Mango Marth looked really good back in the day. Let's see. For me, if I was going to pick another player to rise up and keep leveling up, it's only because I saw Toussaint place top 8 at Genesis, but I would also throw Kadoran in because I think there are certainly players like Kadoran, Ginger, who played Melee for a really long time, and it just took a while, but it finally clicked and they broke into a level where they're competing with top players and even beating top players. I know that Kadoran for a long time just had to keep running into a brick wall to figure things out. And yes, probably forward smashes maybe more than he ought to, but that resonates with me because I up smash with Fox more than I ought to, because it's such a good move. So like you could say whatever you like, but it's a good move. So would you really be wrong by using it just a little bit too much? You might not be wrong. You might just be right.
Asden used to use it 3 times in a row, and sometimes it would just work. So maybe you should use it more.
No one can use Marth forward smash more than Asin.
No, this is very true.
Going back and watching Asin, so this is so funny just for that reason alone. Like, we're going to open up with forward smash. Yep, there it is. Dash dance a little bit, wave dash back, forward smash. Oh, yeah, there it is.
He's not going to expect the forward smash one more time.
Asin, you have grab. Nope, forward smash.
I'm trying to think if there's any play. I've always been a huge Hacks fan. So I would like to see him get back to that top 5 play that he used. I mean, again, he was top 5. I think he was top 5 2013. I think it was around that time. So I'm happy to see him playing, going to some events lately after everything that happened. So I would personally love to see him get back up there.
It would take, I guess, because then eventually, here's what this is actually more of a predictable prediction than I am making it out to be. I think it really just does take someone winning a big tournament with a box to then finally have everybody say, let's nerf it.
See, I keep hearing so many people say how broken it is, but no one's won a major with it yet.
Exactly.
That's the thing. It's like, if it was so good, everybody would probably, if anyone would be doing it, it would probably be Hacks right now winning. But no one's winning. I mean, he got close at, what was it, pound, oh God, what was it, pound 5, pound 6? When he beat Nintendo Dude, and then he had to play Mango, I think.
Yeah, it's tough because Mango definitely had Hacks' number back in the day for sure.
Yeah, he may not even have the box back then, but again, no one's winning with it yet, so I have no issue. If the box means more people can play Melee, then I'm all for it.
I'm all for not spending $300 on a GCC controller. Sorry, I said controller twice. Oops. I'm just like consistency, and when I play the box, I feel the most consistent on it as compared to a GameCube controller. So it's not so much hand health for me. I will be honest, it is mostly just about the consistency of it. But I don't care if it gets nerfed. I just know in my heart it will only be nerfed when somebody actually wins a tournament with it. Then we'll start nerfing it. But for the time being, we get distracted by other things. There's a lot of Melee news day to day and week to week. It's crazy. And we're all kind of looking over at the Ultimate community. They're all trying to ban Steve, and we're just like, so that's life is very distracting if you are a Melee enthusiast. So we won't get to actually banning the controller until somebody wins a tournament. And yeah, between Pipsqueak, I think Zuppy plays on the box, and also Hacks. And let's see, there's another box player here that I wanted to give a shout out to, but I'm not remembering. I'm not thinking of. Oh, that's mean. Gatsu uses a smash box. I feel bad saying that I don't think Gatsu's gonna, but like Zuppy's really good and Hacks is really good and Pipsqueak, they're all really good. So I think one of those three would win a big tournament sooner than Gatsu, but that feels so mean saying that.
I haven't kept up with Gatsu. Is he still using Falcon with the box, or did he switch?
I think it's still Falcon with the box, yeah.
I'd have to watch that. I've always enjoyed his Falcon. I've always been a fan of Falcons.
Let's see. I don't think that Wizrobe had in 2019. Wizrobe would have been ranked top 5, I bet. So that's someone who's technically been top 5 before. But Wizrobe, health issues. That is the sad part of it. But Salt, she won the BEMI event this past weekend, the Black Empowerment Melee Invitational. So Salt. I mean, and everybody who's played against Salt says afterwards, yeah, Salt is going to be a great player in a few years. So if Salt can win that event over people like Toussaint, Billy Bo Peep, and who was the other? There was somebody else who finished pretty high on the. I just named the top 4. So there you go. If Salt can win that kind of a bracket, Salt can probably win other mid-sized brackets, and then you just have to start getting top player wins. Yeah. And we were both talking about Jmook getting that first tournament at Genesis 9. Jmook's probably going to win 3 more events this year, I bet. I'll say that. If I can't pick a outside of the top 5 to be a top 5 player, I will at least say guaranteed Jmook's winning 3 more events this year. And I'm saying that hopefully where he doesn't have to play Hungrybox all 3 times.
Yeah, those would be some long matches. But again, I'm going to say he's winning at least 4 majors this year. I think he's going to essentially do what Zane did when he first showed up and started just winning.
Dang.
I believe in Jmook.
I thought I was pushing the envelope with 3.
I believe. I put 4.
Woo!
I'll say 4.
That's awesome. Let's go. Well, we'll find out that not this weekend that we're in right now, but this upcoming weekend, I believe Jmook is going to be going to Collision. I guess I should find that out for sure, but Collision is actually going to be hopefully really, really good for the tri-state melee because it's in New Jersey, but I'm really hopeful that it pops off and does well because this is probably our newest major level tournament other than the event that's happening out in Oregon, Major Upset. That's more of an ultimate event, but they do have lots and lots of melee players showing up at that event. So let me look at the melee singles. They have the seedings published because I follow Anchor. Shouts out to Anchor on running this tournament along with Ryobeat. Anyway, let's see. This grand finals. Okay, great. So show me the projected. Yep, there's J-Mook. J-Mook is supposed to... What? Hold on. J-Mook is supposed to lose to Cody? That's not right.
All right, they have Cody as the number 1 seed for that tournament. That's why.
That's... Look, Kite, you know this as well as I do. What happens when you put Cody into a tournament in the New York area? He doesn't win. All right, that's all I'm saying. Am I wrong?
Like
I'm sorry. Am I wrong? He doesn't win. He doesn't win events like I need to remember these names, Snippy Snappy, because I can picture it. The Function 2 lost to Moki, at least I think, or Ginger. Somebody else won the Function 2, and then the... I don't think did Cody even compete at Redemption Rumble. Okay, so you see what I'm getting at? These events that are near New York. Oh, and Apex didn't win Apex either,
No.
but may not have even been at Apex 2022.
I think a certain Yoshi won Apex, if I'm not mistaken.
You would be very not mistaken. So that's wild to me that Cody's supposed to win over Amsa, which actually is fair because Cody has Amsa's number, but beating J-Mook. J-Mook tore the crap out of Cody at that Golden Gauntlet thing last month. I know that Cody can turn that around and beat J-Mook, but
yeah,
if you and I are going to be right about this whole J-Mook winning a lot of stuff, J-Mook's got to win Collision.
it starts here.
It starts here. That's exactly right.
I think we potentially see a J-Mook Amza grand finals.
Yeah, then that would be so cool to see. Also, Leffen being here, you never know. You don't know what Leffen you'll get. But if Leffen shows up, then Leffen could just win the whole thing as well. Because Leffen wins events that he's not supposed to. That's always how it works. And then we start saying Leffen's going to be the number 1 player in the world. And he finishes, like at 17th place, like he did at Big House 10. I was so excited to see him in top 8 at Big House 10. Doesn't even place top 8. Heartbreaking. Okay, but look at that. There's so many cool players here. You got Hungrybox, Zane, Moki, Amsa, Leffen, J-Mook, Kadorn, and Cody. And that's just on the winner side. And losers, you got Crudo, Slug? I thought Slug retired. And then Magi, Axe, Ginger, Laud, Toussaint, Aklo. This is going to be really fun.
No one ever truly retires from Melee.
No, you're right. You are right.
You take a break and then you come back at some other point.
Yes, and I'm hoping Slug messaged the 717 Melee Discord. I hope that we can get Slug out to one of our... We have like this monthly called The Garage, and it's big, like homey energy vibes. There's free food and that kind of thing. But it's the best kept secret in the nation.
Of course.
We have the best house fest. We have a stream and everything. Shouts out to Clavicle who runs that. All right, now I think I'm done. There's always more Melee to be talked about, Kite. I'd love to have you back on sometime. Please tell the people where they can find you, shout outs that you have, any last thoughts, and let's get this wrapped up.
Oh god, if I did shout outs, I'd be here all day. So you can find me at SSBM Kite on Twitter. Quick shout outs, I'll do the NEPA guys, LV guys, Easton guys, and then Lazy Gohan, Santino, Coolin, Gohan. Again, these are all friends who have pushed me, to be a better player, and just so many good memories with this scene.
Any last thoughts, or are you all set?
I think I'm all set. Thank you so much for having me on. Truly, I really had fun here, and I mean, what you are doing with the podcast is amazing. I love seeing the top players. I love seeing the content creators, and I love seeing the me who's just unknown. So thank you.
Let's get you just a little bit more known. Although the one thing I do need to go, I need to go back to Verd, who is a photographer in the UK, and say, did anybody from North America buy the photo album that you were putting out for sale? Because I feel like the answer is going to be no, but I should ask Verd anyway. It was super cool to have you on. Thank you for the kind words. You were amazing. So I kind of feel like if you come on for 1 or 2 more episodes, there's a lane for you to maybe do something every once in a blue moon for yourself, something that you can make and say, boom, I did that. Because I think you got the right voice for it. Very, very captivating to listen to. So thank you for joining me. And for everybody who's tuning in, I didn't have any Patreon questions, but that's only because I forgot to ask them. But shouts out to the patrons again. Shouts out to all the listeners and viewers. I talked a little bit about this in the open, and I want to say it again, that it's been a big adjustment going from working, I'm the breadwinner of the house, to being the person who stays at home with the kids instead. That's what Jen, my lovely wife Jen, had been doing before, and now she's the one who's breadwinning. She's going to work full time. She comes back home and I'm like, yeah, dinner's ready. I did shopping today, or I did cleaning today. The kids are in good spirits because I've been doing my best to take care of them, routine, all that kind of stuff. And it is a challenge, but also very rewarding at the same time. I love being with my kids. So this past month of not doing nearly as much stuff mostly had to do with adjusting, but I'm hoping now moving forward that I can be as excited and consistent as I was in leading up to being laid off from work back in December. Also, just for my own sake, to say it out loud to the universe, you don't have to say anything about it if you don't want to, Kite, but I was at 200 pounds when I got laid off. Now I'm weighing in at about 170. I've lost 30 pounds since December, and I'm really happy about that. So hoping to continue to lose just a little bit more and then maybe build back up with some muscle, because I didn't just lose fat. I lost a lot of muscle as well. So I'm trying to get in shape. I'm trying to connect more with my kids, and obviously I get to do that, but also take my health more seriously. So I'm happy about doing all that. But for the lovely viewers and listeners, I'm also very excited to continue to bring more Melee podcasting to you, because I do take pride in that as well. So happy to get back onto all the horses and keep this thing going.